Good evening, everyone, and a really warm welcome to you all on what is a really cold and a bit of a miserable evening. And a warm welcome to our online audience as well, who are joining us on YouTube. So, yeah, warm welcome to you all too. My name is Tom Godfrey, and I'm the director of the Bonington Gallery, which is Nottingham Trent University's flagship art gallery that was first founded in 1969. And tonight's event is the first in a new programme entitled Foundations that curated and created at Nottingham Trent University is delivering in partnership with our good friends and collaborators, Nottingham Contemporary. This important and much valued relationship goes back over 15 years, and we are extremely pleased to manifest it through activities such as tonight's event. The ambition of Foundations is to explore those formative moments that can take place at any moment in the careers and practices of acclaimed figures from the worlds of art, design, and wider culture. Intended to entertain, inform, and inspire, the series will explore experiences related to formal education, cultural experiences, travel and exploration, chance encounters, friendships, collaborations, dreams, and even failures. Generally, anything that has occurred that has proved pivotal to the onward direction and progression of creative practices, careers, mindsets, and philosophical outlooks. Tonight's event takes place on the occasion of Andrew Logan's solo exhibition over the road in Bonington Gallery, entitled The Joy of Sculpture, curated by my esteemed colleague Joshua Lockwood Moran. The exhibition spans 50 years of practice, including large-scale installation, sculpture, jewellery, and archive material related to Andrew's seminal Alternative Miss World contest. Accompanying the exhibition is a text written by curator and friend of Andrew, Linda Morris. The exhibition closes next Saturday, so I implore all of you who haven't made it along yet to do so. Andrew and Zandra will be in conversation till around 8 p.m, accompanied by a selection of photographs and images, and after which there'll be an opportunity for both our in-person audience here and also our online audience to ask questions. So those of you who are watching online, please at any point drop a question into the chat. And I'll feed these through at the end. So just some housekeeping. If I could kindly ask you all to keep wearing your masks throughout the event. unless you are exempt. And please, can all mobile phones be turned off or put into airplane mode as opposed to just silent, so that doesn't interfere with the AV equipment that we've got on the go tonight. Thank you very much. Right, so now to introduce tonight's speakers. Firstly, sculptor, painter, and jewellery artist Andrew Logan is one of Britain's most iconic artists, known for challenging convention, mixing media, and playing with our artistic values. Andrew founded the Alternative Miss World contest in 1972 that soon became a meeting place for the leading cultural provocateurs of that time and subsequent years. Judges over the years included David Hockney, Ruby Wax, Lee Bowery, Grayson Perry, and Zandra Rhodes. Andrew has always maintained a prolific and dedicated artistic practice, reflecting his unrelenting and infectious passion, joy, and energy. His established aesthetic utilizes the transformation of smashed glass and found objects into flamboyant, colourful, and glittering objects of all shapes and sizes. Andrew has exhibited his work the world over, with several pieces now residing in major collections, including the National Portrait Gallery and the Arts Council collection. Dame Zandra Rhodes has been a notorious figurehead of the UK fashion industry for 5 decades, celebrating her 50th year in fashion in September 2019 with the retrospective exhibition at the Fashion and Textile Museum, founded by Zandra, entitled Zandra Rhodes, 50 Years of Fabulous, and a retrospective book published by Yale. Her notoriety as a print designer, combined with an affinity for fine fabrics and colour, has resulted in a signature aesthetic that is undeniably unique and continues to stand the test of time. An eponymous pioneer of the British and international fashion scene since the late 60s, Zandra's career has seen her collaborate with brands such as Valentino, Topshop, and MAC Cosmetics. Continuing to collaborate with brands that inspire her, this year saw the launch of her collaboration with IKEA, amongst many other exciting partnerships and projects. So on that note, I'd like to invite you all to put your hands together and give a warm welcome to our guest tonight.
Thank you, Tom.
Now we have to start.
Thank you, Tom.
somewhere.
Yes. And now we begin. Good evening, Zandra.
Oh, good evening.
And good evening, everyone.
It's really
Welcome.
this is just pictures of adventures that Andrew and I have had together, and I think we travel very well together and
Yes.
inspirationally, and we sketch and draw and
We love
photograph.
shopping. We love sketching.
Museums.
We love museums. What more do you want? So let's begin. Here we are in Varanasi,
Right.
5 in the morning.
Was that our very first trip together?
It was 1982.
Yes, we went first to Australia,
Yes.
and then we went back to India, and this was a bathing festival in Varanasi, and we got our boat to take us out at 5 in the morning, and we sat on the boat watching the crowds in the bathing festival.
Yeah, this is when you were Channel 9 News or something in Australia. And I seem to remember I took the Alternative Miss World crown with me all over the world. And I had it with me at this time, actually. It was taken. I had pictures taken in front of the Taj Mahal, and do you remember that?
That's right.
Yes. I had a special crown box. So this next, please.
Oh, and that's me
That's Sandra.
on the same boat,
Yes.
watching the crowds going in bathing. And there's something amazing about Indian bathing festivals where they take all their clothes off and you don't see a thing.
No. Exactly, Sandra. But I think they're all doing their holy
doing
parts,
holy.
aren't they? Yes. Wonderful city, Varanasi.
I mean, if anyone's never been to India, it's a must.
Yes.
It's the maddest place.
Re-education, yes.
And
Next one, please. Oh, my goodness.
that's you asleep by a tomb.
It's by a tomb. Is this Hyderabad, do you think?
I couldn't remember.
No, we can't remember this one, but anyhow, it was me. Certainly India.
But always in a brooch.
Yes. In a brooch. It must be 1982, yes. Next one, please.
This is a wonderful, wonderful, inspirational friend, Rajiv Sethi, who came to, well, actually chose me to help with the first festival of India.
That's right, yes.
And since then has become a great inspirational friend to both Andrew and myself, and he makes sure all the Indian crafts and all the crafts people get appreciated and they keep living. And this is Andrew and I with his mother at home in Delhi.
Interesting enough, she was one of the first parliamentarians in Indian Parliament. Yes. And it was thanks to Rajiv that I've had really my major works are in India.
Wonderful, you've got some in...
Yes, well, the most latest was the one in Mumbai Airport.
Right.
Gate 43, if you're going there. And it's called The Guardian Angels of India, and it's 23 mirror portraits of those who created India. So Gandhiji and Tagore and philosophers and many. And
it really is a
figures.
wonderful airport, and
yes.
It's a very great, they're lovely, your sculptures in there.
Thank you.
Oh, that's in Jaipur.
Yes. That's marvellous. The Jantar Mantar, this is called, and it's an astrological centre built. Was it by which one, Maharaj? It was very early, wasn't it?
One of the
17th
Maharajas,
century.
though.
Yes. And this marvellous thing of measuring the sun, and but it's so chic, that staircase, isn't it? Just a stairway to heaven, really, Zandra, and there you are.
Perfect. Still in St Andrew Jewels as
yes.
we walk along.
Next one, please. Oh.
Oh, now, oh. This was a horror trip. This is a horror trip. Andrew and I were flown to India to be part of, it was a calendar.
Pirelli calendar, wasn't it? Patrick Litchfield.
Patrick Litchfield,
yes.
And he obviously didn't take to us.
He did not.
But we had a good, we always have a good, we painted the elephant anyway.
Yes, and they were very naughty, weren't they? Do you remember they were picking up, we did it with toothbrushes and things, didn't we? And painted
so anyway,
their nails.
We painted the elephant.
Oh, and here we are, and painting an elephant. And the elephant would whoosh round and get all the water around, and it was
right.
such
And he
fun.
managed, and then he did the biggest picture of everyone and made us the smallest people in it.
Yes.
Even though we were over there for that trip.
They made a film about it, actually, didn't they? But I don't think it was ever shown.
It was what?
Made a film about our trip.
And we never saw it, did
no.
we? No.
Next one, thank you.
I don't remember where that one was taken.
Oh, Zandra.
It was one of your pictures.
Yes, it is. Well, I haven't a clue.
Oh, that's back. That's back in India. And
yes.
the tusks are actually screwed in. Do you remember? They screw the tusks in. The elephant hasn't really got a tusk. Did it take us all day to paint them?
Yes, I think it was early morning, wasn't it? Then they did the photograph in the afternoon, and they had all the extras come in, which you saw in the earlier photograph.
As it was when they still had vultures in in that area.
Yeah, well, the whole of India.
Look at you. They've gone now, sadly.
Next one.
That's obviously an evening out somewhere.
That's an evening out. The funny, when you had evening out, when you went to India, do you remember you arrive at 8 o'clock for dinner, and then they start drinking, chatting, drinking.
They invite you, say, we're giving a dinner for you, and you think, and then by 9 o'clock there's no one there. You think, well, maybe it was a drinks party.
Yes.
And then you think, I'm going to go home now, and then you look behind the curtain, and they're preparing a feast, and everyone comes in at like 11:30. Eat it and go.
Eat. So you have to wait till 11:30, and then.
So it was obviously a party of some kind. But we always dress up well, we dress up in the day, but we double dress up in the evenings.
Of course.
Test out the outfits.
Test out, yes. What's the next?
Oh, that was it was just a sketch of when we were last in India, and they had that festival with all those people running through.
Where is that?
Oh, well, that one.
Is this Sri Lanka?
This one is, where was Robin? That's
Vrindavan.
That's Vrindavan.
Vrindavan.
At a holy festival, and just one of my sketches from one of the holy festivals as they were.
Ah, this is the flower Leela.
It's where they throw the flowers and they
the
bury
holy festival, a week of Krishna, and it culminates in this particular ashram where our mutual friend Robin Beach,
who really recorded all of your work, all of my work, and then she ended up in India really recording the ceremonies in this ashram.
Next one.
That was another time we were in Jaipur, just a sketch. Oh, that was December 87, my God.
87.
I know, time flies, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
So both Andrew and I, when we're on these trips, will sketch and take photographs and go around and buy jewels for you to make the next lot of jewellery, or find
I always
what will
remember
inspire us.
Talking about Pirelli when we went to Jaipur to the it was called this Gem Palace, I think, and it was marvellous because they put a ring on Zandra's finger, and it was rubies, diamonds, emeralds, huge ring, and you fell asleep. Because it was sort of impressive, but very unimpressive. And they were tipping out sacks of rubies. Do you remember ruby rocks? I mean, India has such a richness that you can't believe.
It's wonderful to go and choose, you know, go with Andrew and choose bits that are going to go into the jewels that we wear. Next.
Oh,
that was another.
Ravana.
We don't quite know what's going to come up all the time because we both prepared this separately, and Andrew was really efficient, and then I thought, I better put things together.
Yes.
So
this is a very nice drawing, Sandra, the Ravana. But where is that?
I don't know when. Oh, I don't think there's even a date on that.
No, there isn't.
No. I try and put dates in my sketchbook when I do them. But we do have, when we get a bit further on, you'll see, Andrew and I often will go, it's great sitting and doing a sketch, and both of us come out with something totally different, and we're both in the same place.
Next.
There you are.
There you are. No, there you are.
After the...
That's
in Andrew's museum?
Yes, museum in Mid Wales, and this piece is called Rajas Zandra, which means spirit of movement. Because Zandra is always moving.
And it's like an Indian doll, and the whole thing moves.
Yes. And then you can see the little people on the side there, that's her staff. And then it also explored, for me, it explored the colour and the sense of smell, because when you go to India, you have to re-educate your whole sense of scent, and smell being one of them. So it had little joss sticks, so the smell wafted with this amazing colour as well. But using your motif, you know, the little motif,
and the lilies,
and things,
and then the Indian
with the goddess.
I've forgotten.
Yes,
Paisley.
And then you can see behind the photographs of the family, which of course
all the way up the staircase.
Which are in the gallery at the moment. Next.
Oh, that was the poster that I did when I did a Sari show in '87. And so we used to do a poster, and Robin Beach used to take the photograph.
Yes.
And then you've got the Andrew Paisley on, and Andrew Jules.
Gosh.
And that was from my Indian show, from my first Indian show of '87? No. Yes, '87.
It would have been '87, yes, if that was the Sari.
And then we did Richard Shah, this amazing Australian makeup artist, did the, the special blue makeup, like gods round the edge.
Next.
Oh, and that was just another one of the
Sari
shows.
Very good with the gloves and the walking stick.
Oh, I know. It shocked all the ladies because I did panniers and feather, you know.
But you kind
like
of, you
looking
did
at a sari in a
reinvent
different
the
way.
sari, Zandra. I
Yeah.
mean, at that stage it was very traditional. It was
I think it shocked all the Indian ladies. Very much so in that show.
Next one.
Well, it was basically going to India. And then that's the that's the finale with all Andrew's crowns, and then
my crowns,
and
yes.
your crowns, yes, and then on the top, that one with the stars, where Andrew did the stars, and they were all on
quivering.
tremblers.
Yes.
You know, the third one along, you can
lovely.
see
Yes.
the stars all in tremblers.
So where was this one then?
That was in the Taj in Bombay,
Ah,
Mumbai.
right. It's beautiful, other reflection. Wonderful.
Oh, and that's the holy sari, because it's a sari with holes in it.
With a hole in it.
The holes are embroidered, and you can look through the different holes.
Yes.
I mean, it shocked the Indian ladies. What happened was, having been taken to India, I realised that all these Indian ladies that I knew weren't going to wear anything that I made. So I thought, well, I'll do some saris. But in fact, I got credited with really being the first designer to show them what big show could really look like at that time.
Of course. No. Revolutionised it. Next one.
Now here we are in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. Yes. In Kandy.
In Kandy. Yes. I got asked to judge the, what was it?
No, Miss India contest.
Miss India contest.
Yes.
With an audience
in Hyderabad.
of 50 million, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And it was in Hyderabad.
Yes.
So I said,
Outdoor.
is there a fee? And they said, no fee. So, but we're flying you first class to India. So I said, well, if I've got to go to India, could I take someone with me? And could we then go on from Hyderabad to Sri Lanka, as I was doing the Pearl Fishers Opera?
That's right.
So Andrew and I had another trip together.
Yes.
And this is us in Sri Lanka.
In the hotel. Now, what was her name? Oh, gosh.
God.
She was, what's her name?
Blow.
She was
Detna Blow's mother.
Yes.
That's...
Yeah.
What was her...
Oh.
Isabella Blow? No.
No, Isabella was who died, of course.
Yes, but that was her mother-in-law.
It was her mother-in-law.
We stayed in her mother-in-law's house. Oh, and this is this amazing mountain where you just keep climbing up the mountain.
Climbing.
I mean, when Andrew and I go on trips, we go sightseeing every single day, and we have to do at least one sketch a day. So this is climbing this amazing medieval site.
Next.
There you are.
Yes, there I am.
There you are.
Way on top.
Gradually going up.
Yes, it was.
Oh, and that's with that's where the boarding house where we were staying.
Yes, that's the mother-in-law.
Yes, I found a picture.
Yes, you did. The Dalmatian dog. I don't remember that one at all, Zandra.
I think Kelly found it for me because you've sent me such an efficient set of pictures, and then I had to find pictures. So anyway, that's us.
Yes, wonderful. Next.
Oh, well, what happened was the reason we went to Sri Lanka is also because I'd never been to Sri Lanka, but I'd been to India, and I was designing in San Diego the Pearl Fishers Opera, which took place in Sri Lanka. And this is really, I had to know what Sri Lanka was like in order to know what to design for the sets and costumes. So that was the finale, the finale of the first act. Next. Oh, and those were sketches. I think actually the columns are in Madras, but they're sketches that I did in preparation for the opera. Yeah. Next. Oh. And then this is very much linked to seeing that where we climbed up those
Yes, whatever it was
the
called.
palace, because I needed to know, if I had to design for Sri Lanka, I had to find out what Sri Lanka looked like. Next. Oh, and those were costumes in candy that were taken from a frieze. Do you remember as we went into the temple?
Yes, the tooth.
The
It was
frieze,
the
yes.
tooth. The temple of the tooth.
Looks like Temple of the
I
Large
don't think we ever
Feet.
saw the tooth, but
We didn't see the tooth, did we? Next. So I had to know what they looked like to see if candy looked enough like India
Yes.
to do the designs for the opera. Of course, you realise now you'd have a lot of problems. It's even now in America where a Western designer, you've got to be careful what you now design, but these were the research of what went into the opera. Next.
oh, Morocco
Oh, Morocco.
and the gorge.
That was a fantastic trip in the middle of winter, wasn't
Yes, December, and we went flew to Marrakesh, and we were in a couple of days in Marrakesh, and then we just hired a car and headed for the Atlas Mountains. We had no clue where we were going, but
it? Oh, and then we collected so many rocks, didn't we, that
Yes.
all went into your brooches?
yes,
Or on the centre of my table.
because they had rock shops as you went along the
The
roads.
children are waiting, selling you geodes.
Geodes and yes, many, and
It was called Andrew Logan Broochland.
yes. And this was it was December, and
It was freezing cold,
it was freezing.
but no tourists.
No, there were
Very
no
good.
tourists. Well, there weren't any tourists. And that's when you encouraged me. I think up to then I'd been taking Josie around the world. This is a little doll I had this big who I was documenting her life. And she got to about the age of 18. She'd had pictures taken with Andy Warhol and you name it, and periods in front of the pyramids of Egypt. But sadly at 18, a friend of ours threw her out. She was on the Christmas tree, and that was it. But I made a movie of her, a hologram. I'd really documented her life. And then when she went, Zandra said, well, why don't you bring some watercolours to Morocco? And this was in late 89 or something.
And then
So that was the beginning of my watercolour.
Would do his watercolours.
Yes.
And
So
everything.
next. Oh,
It was chilly.
it was chilly. Very beautiful. And for instance, one night we were sketching away somewhere, and then we never suddenly realised it was getting dark, and we never
had
went to sleep. And this
worked out
man
where we
came
could
by, and he said, he stood chatting, and the next moment we were sleeping on his floor, weren't we? It was wonderful.
We did really
Next.
mad adventures.
Yeah. Next. Oh,
I don't-
Chebby. This is called the Big Dune. And when you go in, we were motoring to the Atlas Mountains, and the road suddenly went. There was no road anymore. But there were two young men waiting, and they got in the car and drove us. And we went across the desert.
That's where they'd filmed Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes.
And then they gave us a hut to stay in.
Yep, we had a hut. And this was the well. This was how you washed in the morning. And drank and everything.
It was freezing cold in the morning.
Freezing, yes. Next.
Oh, sketching.
Oh, sketching. Marvellous in Morocco. Wonderful. Next. Oh, that was
Desert.
Chebby.
Chebby, yes. Pink
Early
desert.
morning. And the boys, they would...
Oh, you woke up in the morning and it looked like a snail
Yes.
had been... There were all these lines down these sand dunes, and you thought, what could have made these lines? And then a little boy appeared, and he was like on a plastic tea tray.
It was a fertiliser sack.
And he was tobogganing down
Down
the dunes.
the big dune. Next. Oh,
I think that's upside down, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'm not sure. Is it?
Oh, yeah, no, look,
maybe not.
it's on the side, this
All
one.
right, I think it's just sunset.
What is it? Oh, it's her Chebby again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was the sunset, yes. Right, next.
Next.
Oh, Sansi.
Sorry we haven't got those of Andrew's. You need to see his, but
Yes, actually,
we didn't get together enough on this, did we?
No, but I think I sent one. I don't know if we got it, but anyway, next one.
And then mine was really just to say, after these trips, one, you know, I do my collection, and then there it is together with Andrew's jewellery, just reinterpreting what we saw that went next. I think I've just got 3 garments that came from that trip.
Next. Oh, what's this one? Oh.
That's a mixed chiffon with a lovely big Andrew, well, several lovely big Andrew jewels.
Yes,
there.
big necklaces.
Essential to a show.
Yes.
And that was a trip, you know, using the little 6-sided stars that they did and everything.
Wonderful.
I think was this a trip to China, I think?
Yes.
I think this was a trip to
was
China.
Was it to China? Yes.
I could do with a bit more makeup on there. But
that was flying. I must, yes. Oh, it is China, yes.
Here we are, yes.
And here we
China,
are.
in Beijing.
1993.
That was our first class trip.
It was. But
British Airways to celebrate
their first non-stop.
direct non-stop to Beijing.
Yeah.
They said, where would you like to go? And they gave me Spain. You know, I thought, well, Beijing's the furthest we can go.
Yes.
We'll go there.
And there's still bicycles and things. I mean,
I know.
Yes.
It's changed massively now. But anyway.
Next.
If you've never been to China, the most intriguing thing is rocks in pots. It's almost like you just see the most magnificent rocks, and they've been put into the most gorgeous carved pots.
Their winters are so severe, the emperors couldn't have, plants. So what they did, they had rocks in pots. And that's Sandra's sketch of the rock in a pot. And I think next, have we then got... Oh. Then this is Temple to Heaven. And it was, do you remember below, it was just at the time of capitalism coming in, and they were doing a promotion of a car promotion just next to the Temple of Heaven.
I don't remember that bit.
Kind of the beginning of something. Next.
Oh, that was, do you remember they made, I think this was your photograph, they made me up as an opera thing.
Beijing Opera.
Yes.
And so you had your face stretched and all sorts of things, do you remember?
It's unrecognisable, but you had this picture.
Yes.
I think is that your hand in there? I don't know.
I'm not sure, but it was certainly my picture, I remember. Next.
Oh, just sketches of some Chinese hats. Chinese invented all the most wonderful things, like mortarboards and all those things, and just wonderful when you see the different things that they made. Next. Oh, Rock in Pot.
Rock in a Pot. 93. Next. Rock in a Pot.
Oh, and then those wonderful animals.
Yes, the Spirit Way, they were wonderful.
So we always stop, whatever we do, we have to do a drawing every day. Compulsory.
And is that your name in Ming? I think it might be.
I think we went into a shop and got our names, didn't we?
Because our names done in Ming.
And things.
Yes.
Next. And then they took us to an opera, they must have done.
Yes.
Or I wouldn't have had those sketches.
They did take us.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing what one doesn't remember.
No, I do remember there was a lot of action. They were extraordinary, the characters. Next. Oh, the Spirit Way again, yes.
In the tombs.
The Spirit Way is wonderful on the way to the Ming tombs. I created some, for mine, photographs, and I don't know if they've got them, but I did etchings from photographs and drawings.
Andrew did these most wonderful pyramids. I don't think you put the pyramids in that you designed afterwards. Did you put them in?
I'm not sure.
Maybe afterwards, whoever's a student can research and go to Andrew's website and see a lot of these things.
Next one.
Because I was so ashamed when Andrew put all his things together, I said to my girl, you better put me some pictures in. This was a wonderful show that Andrew's very famous in Russia and Latvia, and we got asked to do a show.
Oh, it is.
The embassy flew us over to do a show in was it a nightclub?
The Opera House.
The Opera House, was it? Right, in the middle of winter. But anyway, so
and it was
Andrew
marvellous.
picked these very wonderful guys and made them all their glasses and all the things.
And they carried your models.
They carried the models in on stretchers.
The stretchers, yes. But I think we might have some pictures of those.
Oh, there's one, you see, look.
Oh, yes, there she is.
There she is, in the gold outfit, holding an orb and being carried in by very sexy young men.
Yes. So they didn't move the models, they just posed, basically. It was kind of wonderful, really. It was still life. Next one.
And then you see they're holding Andrew mirrors.
That's definitely inspired by India, that one.
And crowns.
Buddha. You can see the Buddha's face. Oh, and then these little crowns, which are made from, I cut out with scissors, aluminium, and then I cover them in glass and resin, with resin.
And that was just another one of the poses from that show.
Wonderful, yes, this was the opera. Next. Oh, here they are, yeah.
We got them doing the most wonderful poses across, didn't we? Those were in.
They were very glamorous models, weren't they?
They were very glamorous.
Yes.
I met one of them in China about a year ago.
Did you?
I think she was working there by then.
Has she changed, or was she?
I didn't recognise her, of course.
Oh, I see. Next.
Oh, just another shot of that same one.
Elizabethan. And that reminds me, actually, that one of the gold, because next year is going to be the 50th anniversary of the Alternative Miss World.
Oh, yes, he's going to do at the Globe.
And the theme is going to be gold.
Gold.
So Zandra will be doing the golden half.
The golden half. We come up to those next.
Yes.
So come to that in a minute, then.
Oh, the feather's lovely, yes.
That was a feather one.
Is that from that same period?
Now here, Andrew was doing a wonderful lecture in Detroit. There's a woman called Penny Stamp, of all things, who has sponsored. She lives in Florida, and she must be a millionairess, and she sponsors these lectures by artists who then have to do a lecture. It's the university opposite Detroit in Ann Arbor. So Andrew was doing a lecture, and they'd thrilled that they got Andrew to do the lecture, and they flew me out from California to be there to also come and be in part of the audience. And that's in front of a wall behind the theatre where it had been drawn on, as you see. Next. First Miss World, over to you.
No, not the first. This one, Zandra, is 1975. And this was I call them modern Baroque frames, because if you look, there's little figures, well, they're Barbie dolls, but they were all gold leafed.
Oh, they're wonderful, those frames, and they're all up in the museum for you to go and see in Wales.
So this was, I think, this was your first complete one, because the original, 72 was the one from the jumble sale.
Right.
And the second one was Bill Gibb.
Bill Gibb, and then
the
I made all the other ones.
Was the Zandra Rhodes on top of a Bill Gibb.
And then we went on to
And then the 75 was this one.
Jewel, that one.
Jewel, yes, it was beautiful. And that's in the museum. And that's actually, that's the crown that I took to Australia. Next one. Oh.
That was the roundhouse.
Exactly. And this was from the British Guide to Showing Off. This was what the film was culminated in eventually, based on the elements. So you see the yellow box is earth. And the red, of course, is fire. The blue is water. And there's void. I think I've got void ring, I think. But this was Zandra's marvellous. And also Whitaker and Malin, who do the male half. They work in leather and are brilliant. And
they do a lot of films.
A lot of films. They've done things for James Bond and Madonna and Troy and... Next one. Water theme.
That was the water theme.
Yes. And this was...
and you had... What were the girls called who were dancing with the water?
The dancers were called the... they would be called the... No, what were they called? The waterettes, I suppose.
Waterettes.
Yes, because they were always called the ettes.
They did a special dance for that.
Yes. And then you can see this, the robe. This is portrait by Robin Beach, and this is the robe, and then the orb,
and then you've got the man's outfit one side, and the Zandra Rhodes women's outfit.
I always
on the
remember Michael White, who was a great impresario, theatre impresario. He
of the Rocky Horror
Show and many others. But he always said to me, the most amazing thing he ever saw was that Alternative Miss World,
with
the opening, because what happened was, my brother Richard had organised it. We had a waterfall at the back of the stage, and then a series of fountains. And, well, and I came out, this extraordinary, I just went whoosh, and everything just happened. It was an amazing sight, yes. It was magnificent. Next one. Oh, we're going through them. Universe, Hippodrome, Leicester Square. This is my nightclub one. And it was sort of run by the Mafia. I never saw a programme of this. It was extraordinary. No one ever saw a programme because we were thrown out immediately afterwards. But
they did, yeah, that was weird, wasn't it?
Yes, they were very strict. But that's the throne behind. The amusing story of this one is the throne revolves. And it has 4 sections, gold, silver, bronze, and blue. And the idea was that the 3 winners would be on 3 sections, and then the previous winner on the last. Well, Pani Bonua from Russia, she forgot to get a visa, so she didn't turn up. And then Miss Nigeria, who was 3rd, stood to the side. And then the other one, she was screaming. She stood to the other side, but then Ferda, who was Russian, he came on and he stood on the throne. And then, but the robe was about 25 feet long. And what happened was, we started to revolve.
And it got muddled.
And so he became a cocoon. And the entire photographic, all the photographers came on stage. It was gorgeous. It was sort of complete chaos. Thank you. Oh. I think this is what I did, Zandra. I think these are my drawings, aren't they?
Yes, you sent in the picture.
Oh. These are little drawings I did of us. I'm not sure what it was even for. But I have done many portraits of Zandra.
Oh, wait till you see the one that's coming up in a minute.
Oh, are they? Oh, next.
This one's in the National Portrait Gallery.
Yes. And it was the time of when we were living in your house then, weren't we?
Well, what happened was you had a terrible fire and nowhere to work. Yeah. And the top of my house was still an attic with boards, and that's when you were doing all those wonderful portraits.
Yes.
And you were doing the portraits of Lynn Seymour after she'd been dancing, and you had to meet her downstairs because she couldn't manage the stairs anymore.
No.
But you were doing all those wonderful portraits of heads at that time.
Now, I do remember the top floor, actually, because there was no floor. So you had to walk along boards. So you had to be very careful when you were working. So if you stepped back, you'd go through the ceiling. And there was a ladder to get up to the top as well. those were exciting days. And there's the fried egg brooch.
Oh, I know. Classic fried egg brooch.
Yes.
It's beautiful, that brooch. I'm sorry, I'm not wearing it today because I'm in yellow.
Next. This is a very interesting one.
This is a Zandra Klimt.
Yes, I was in New York, and it was the time when the Klimt picture was the most expensive painting in the world or something. And so I took a little brochure of it and came back to London. I showed this to Zandra. She said, "Oh, I'd love another portrait." I said, "Fine." So this is it. So it's based on that.
And how tall is it?
It's 8 foot square. And I got Zandra to silk screen, because I always think portraiture is very important. I'm not very keen on just sitting and doing. There should be a portraiture from both sides. So I said to Zandra, would she silk screen the fabric?
Back of
the glass.
The glass. Yes.
So she silk screened it, and then I painted it on the back. So you get this relationship, I think is really important. I still believe strongly in it, really, if I can, to have that close relationship with the portrait, because then you get a real portrait, for me, anyhow. Next. Oh.
That's the big one that I've just
Yes.
put up in the museum.
It's just gone
that you did
up
with me.
Yes.
And it was in America, and I got it brought back, and we've just put this up in the front of the Fashion and Textile Museum. But that's a close-up of it.
And it was the makeup by Yvonne Gold, wasn't it?
Right,
Remember
that's
that
right.
period?
The makeup and
And
hair by
you
Yvonne
had
Gold.
swept-up hair, didn't you?
That's it.
But the mirrors the flesh. I'm fascinated with this idea that you can use something so cold and brittle. It's completely anti-flesh, but you can get a likeness, and you can get a feeling of the person
That
as well.
could only be done in mirror.
Yeah. So next one. It's nice and big, isn't it? Next one.
Or is it the
Is
last?
that it?
Is that the last one? Oh.
Oh, well, there you are then.
Oh, well then. We're here for questions.
Yeah. Yes, so a lot of slides missing of mine. I don't know what happened to them. They must have gone into the ether.
Is there some missing?
Yes. Just that corresponded to Zandra's that were...
Oh, right, okay. I don't know.
No,
You'll have to get us back for another lecture.
they obviously got lost in the...
So yeah, we whiz through those, which is great because actually we have a bit longer for some questions. We got some roaming microphones, and we have up there. So and Josh too. So if anyone, I've got a couple of questions which have come through online, but yeah, like yourself, if you please put your hand up and just wait for the microphone if that's okay, and then we can capture the audio on the stream. So.
Hi, good evening. Do you guys remember meeting, like the first time you ever saw each other?
Oh, the first time I ever saw Andrew was at his first alternative Miss World, where I was brought to see the Miss World by Dougie Field, who, if you go to the current exhibition here in the Bonington, there's a wonderful, is it 10 foot high?
16 foot.
Oh, 16. I need a new portrait now. And he really properly introduced Andrew and myself, and then I gradually got to know Andrew and his fabulous work, and we found that we bounce off of each other for ideas and inspirations.
1973. It was the second one, actually, Zandra, because the first one was...
No, it was in Downham Road.
Yes, that's right. Well, the second one was Downham Road.
Oh,
that's when Bowie tried to get in, and his wife was the judge.
Oh, right.
But people were climbing in the windows.
Oh.
And so he drove off in his Rolls Royce because he couldn't come in. And, but I remember there was Thea Porter, Barbara Luniki, Molly Parkin, yourself, Ozzie Clark. It was all the fashion designers of that time. And that's when I first met Zandra.
And then since then we've been on our adventures and gradually done things
absolutely.
together.
Yes. Delighted.
I mean, I would like to add that, I mean, the one thing that I think is so terrible about COVID is with so many people having to work alone, like I've, dealt with some, students who have been talking to me on Zoom and things like that. Nothing can replace inspirational relationships. And I think that leads to more inspiration and more creativity from all different directions that you never expect. So try not to hide yourself away when you're allowed to mix again.
No, I think it's really important to get that cross-fertilization as well, We've collaborated on so many things, Zandra.
And I mean, Andrew's so amazing because he's such an amazingly fast worker as well. I think you're a lot faster than I am on things. But it's so good to know how other people work and to be inspired and to sort of you just progress.
Yes.
Just a question at the front here, Josh.
It's good exercise.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love hearing what you said about inspiration, and I think that really is so important. But one thing that concerns me is something else you touched upon, is cultural misappropriation. And I just wondered how, reflecting back on the past and looking forward to the future, how you feel you can balance the two of those and still make progress.
It's definitely a problem that has reared its head much more recently, I mean, it's a difficult thing. I think cultural misappropriation, or whatever you're going to call it, is more difficult, say, in the fashion world, where nowadays we're not going to be able to use the inspiration in the same way. Or, for example, a problem you've really got more in America at the moment, for example, is that I can't see how long-term, if it's going to go on like it is, how they're going to produce, say, a wonderful opera like Turandot. Because Turandot is a Western point of view of Chinese, and even if you made all the characters in it real Chinese, I don't see how you can do the 3 semi-joke characters. I think there's a serious problem of what's really going to happen. I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, just at the top there.
Thank you. It's been really inspirational and really interesting. One of the questions I've got for you, well, I've got 2 questions actually, Andrew, is how come you chose Wales, that little village in Wales, for your museum?
Oh, how would I... Yes. Well, it's quite a bit of a long story, but friends of ours, our 2 artists, Leslie and Jonathan, were, at the time, they were great friends of Julie Christie in the 80s and 70s. 70s, actually. And they were friends of us, and they looked after her house. So we used to go up. It would take a day from London to get to Wales, because there were no motorways then, so you travelled across the countryside. And eventually then they moved to the local town. And then I had this dream of a museum. I just woke up, because my work is about joy and celebration. I wanted somewhere where it could be enjoyed all the time. I mean, exhibitions are wonderful, but of course they come to an end. Whereas the museum we've set up, hopefully will go on for many, many years after I've gone, and people could still enjoy the work. And so I had this dream, and in fact, there was we were having a dinner party, and I remember we looked at sheds, Michael and myself, on the way back up from London, and Michael was sitting next to some local landowner, and he said, "Have you got anything?" And he said, "Actually, I have some squash courts, which I'll sell to you." And he did. And that would have been in the 80s. And then in 91 we opened. And then we now celebrated our 30th year in the little village of Berryu. And we've just had a refurb, so it's all looking very magnificent at the moment.
And you all have to go.
Yes, all please visit. And we bought the local hotel, so Michael's running that with manager, the Lion Hotel, so somewhere to stay. So we've got the package, really.
And the other thing that I'm interested in is, can you tell me a little bit more about the Alternative Miss World and how that was born?
My goodness, the Alternative Miss World. Yes, and what Zandra was saying, actually, which is really important, dialogue. We were, in the 70s, you all sit around and chat. Cups of tea or whatever, or drinking. But you just, as artists, you had time to be with each other. And so that was the time of Miss World. It was very big then. And I'd always given parties. I'd given a dinner and dance, I seem to remember. And I was always giving parties. I started when I was very young. And so we were looking for another idea. And so the idea of Alternative Miss World came up. I'd just been to Cruft's dog show. And I got rather inspired. So we did the Alternative Miss World. And it has day wear, swimwear, and evening wear. I call it a surreal art event for all-round family entertainment. Well, it's gone on from there, really. And because it's not done every year, it's when it feels like it every 5 years. I think I've done 14 since over that 50 years. It's very special, and no rehearsals, and everyone does everything for love. I think it's so lovely to do things just for pure love, actually. Just people do everything, and we get volunteers, and that makes it very special. And so the last one, which was Psychedelic Peace, was held at the Globe. And that's for kind of a marriage made in heaven, really. Shakespeare and Alternative Miss World. I think Janet, my sister, who's sitting in the front row here, who, in fact, has entered every single one, she came as Miss Who Cares a Fuck. And she got her aid at one stage to get the entire audience at the top of their voices to scream, "Who cares a fuck?" And I just was thinking, if someone walking by Shakespeare's theatre would hear this. But it was I'm sure Shakespeare would have loved it. And anyhow, we look forward to the next. And I will continue to do it until I go. It's ambition. Thank you.
I'm going to feed in a question which has come through on the YouTube. How important is the practice of daily sketching for you both? That featured, you talked about that quite a lot in the talk. Does it help inspire work, and what would you say are the merits of daily sketching? And then the person goes on to say, amazing talk, very inspiring as an NTU art student.
I wish I sketched every day. Usually it's every day on a holiday. Because, you know, it's amazing what you can draw. It's quite a good challenge, you know, when we've been on holiday and we think, where are we going to stop and do a sketch? And Andrew's magnificent at capturing characters. You know, I can't do that as well. But it's great that there's two of you, and then it's sort of like an incentive that you know you're going to come back from something like that, and you never know. I mean, from my point of view, if I get stuck, you can flick through sketchbooks and think, oh, that was an idea I didn't develop.
I always find it comes down to practical sketching when we're travelling. Like in the Forbidden City, you have to find somewhere where people can get behind you.
Oh, and the kids can't.
Yes.
It's lovely.
Pinch your pens and things.
Yeah. who all want to touch everything.
Or where it's too hot, so you have to go in the shade. So they say, people always say, what a wonderful view, or this. Well, actually, it usually comes down to being where you're most comfortable. And but I think that thing of you saying, cameras, and we live in an instant age now. But when you sketch, you're absorbing. You're just taking it in. Even if you're just looking, you're just absorbing the vision.
Yeah, the camera can back you up,
yes.
But it's so good to do a drawing and sort of
and I would recommend it for anyone, actually, even if they can't draw, just to sit and look at something. And
you
just
have a rule that you must never throw the drawing away. And my sketchbook, the pages are glued in anyway, so that if you have a bad drawing, you've got to live with it. You can either draw over the top of it, but it's going to be there to haunt you.
A question at the top. There.
Hi, thank you. And this is slightly tangential, but I was wondering if you could tell us very briefly about what it was like to know and to work with Divine.
Oh, Divine.
Divine. Well, Zandra introduced me to Divine. You brought it, do you remember when you brought him?
Oh, yes.
To the
he
alternative.
loved it. Yes, I brought him to which It was
the Jubilee at Butler's Wharf.
I took him to the Jubilee at Butler's Wharf. And
that would be in '77, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And
I mean, he was like this amazing character, and so easy to be with. Easy to be with.
Very gentle man, very naughty. He loved shopping at Harrods.
And he liked chocolates.
Yes, and chocolates.
But I always get all these Spanish magazines phone me up and say, what was it like when Divine was staying at your place? Then I have to ring up someone like Janet over there and say, well, he didn't get up early, so I'd already left for work. I didn't know what he was doing. He used to like having tea parties, I know that.
Yes, and we did wonderful trips, went to Stonehenge. I remember him posing on the sacrificial stone.
And we took him to the seaside. He loved the seaside,
didn't he? And he met, I did a hologram show, I think in Bath or something. I had a huge sculpture there called The Birth of Existence. And he met Princess Margaret and he almost melted. He loved royalty. And tea and cakes.
Yes, he liked Fortnum's for tea.
Yes.
Hi. I'm just amazed. As you were talking, I'm a musician, and it felt like you were two musicians playing off many memories and silly quiz, and just it was just very powerful. But what was your first early venture, leaving home, and you discover the world as you've discovered now? Is the first question, and the second one is, what's your next venture after? Because you're working up it's an amazing collaboration and a beauty and a power. But what's
I don't know. It always happens by accident.
Yes.
We go on a trip. I mean, we
What
trip
was our
will
first
come up.
then? Was it Morocco? Perhaps it was Morocco, 80, yeah.
Was Morocco first or was
December.
India?
Oh, no, India, of course, it was 82.
India was first because
Yes, with India.
Kerry Packer was opening his TV or whatever he was doing with sport,
wasn't it?
and I
Awards.
got offered a trip to go, and I said, well, I need to go with someone. Happened to be Andrew, yes.
We were sitting in Kashmir, you remember, Easter Day.
We were sitting in Kashmir on a boat.
The boats come by and they sell everything, including newspapers.
And so
open the newspaper, and what happens, Zandra?
Well, first of all, Andrew has carried all the way from England a chocolate Easter egg.
Oh, yes, that's right, yeah.
Which he presents to me. We're having breakfast on a boat on a lake, and it's Sunday morning in Kashmir, and all these people are popping up selling fur hats, and I mean, it was peaceful for a minute,
yes,
and everything. And then Andrew thinks he'll buy a newspaper, and he buys a newspaper. We're in Kashmir, and it says, I open the newspaper, it says, England at war.
Yes.
Who with? France, Belgium, Germany? No, Argentina. About the where were the Falklands? We didn't even know where the Falklands were. So it did seem rather amazing at that time.
And the next trip, of course, yes, 29th December, we're going up to see...
yes, we're going to up the coast of Norway to paint the
Arctic Circle, the Northern Lights. So we'll take our sketchbooks. I don't know if they're going to freeze on... the watercolour's going to freeze, but...
We'll be in thick gloves. Or inside a bit.
Sorry, and then finally, what's your philosophies to life? Do you live by any internal affirmation that keeps you going?
His work. And my work.
Yeah.
I mean, one's very lucky to be a workaholic. You know, I mean, I think for some reason there's something in you that drives you to want to be doing things. I can't imagine not doing anything. And being with an inspirational friend, you bounce off of each other so that your work, it helps your work. You know, just different things. Or you can go through a terrible time when you're stuck and then you're saying, well, what do you think I do about not being stuck?
Yeah, I think my work's about celebration of life and the fact that we're here for such a short time. I really want to celebrate that as much as I can.
You know, you walk into the exhibition, if you haven't seen it, I hope you will, you know, with first of all, the wheat.
Yes.
Which was one of the earliest.
1976.
You know, in the...
And that's when you came with One Bosom Out.
I came with One Bosom Out, yes. Oh.
At the opening. And little Nell tap dance through the wheat.
Oh, that's right.
And Richard Hartley, who was responsible for a lot of the music in the Rocky Horror Show, he wrote a special song for it.
God, that was amazing.
I'm going to drop in another question.
Yeah.
I think this is from a good friend of yours, Piers Atkinson.
Oh, what's Piers? Hello, Piers.
Hello,
Fancy
Piers.
Piers looking.
Hello, Piers. You both are so colourful. What is it about colour that inspires you both?
It's happy.
It's happy, yes.
Yes, you know.
Joyful.
I think that, you know, sometimes it's amazing. You look through a room and you think at the moment, I mean, maybe it's because of COVID, everyone's in black. So, colour's very inspirational.
As you said, we recently went to Venice and everyone was in black in Venice. It was, because I think when you look at the world, actually it's different because India more so, but because here is, and they say pink is the navy blue of India, which is completely true.
Pink hair will get you anywhere in India.
And the colour is everywhere, all the time.
You can go to the remotest village and the ladies want to feel my hair. Little old ladies want to feel my hair. Yes.
But it's colour. It's perhaps one.
I'm waiting for colour to come back.
I know. Well, we're working on it, aren't we?
I dress like this so for you guys to stand out. Stand out more.
But it's an illusion, you know, when you think, well, if I wear black or grey, it won't show the marks. But colour doesn't show the marks, and if it's patterned, you don't see it half the time. I'm sure if I look close. I think what we should do, Sandra, is instead of black being the word, we should have pink. Imagine the whole world in pink. It'd be wonderful. Well, I'm glad you're watching from Cornwall, Piers.
Yes.
Thank you. There was someone over there earlier on.
Yeah, just there.
Hi. What are your best memories from the Glass House studio? What's that really stand out?
Well, of course, the Glass House was designed and built by Michael, of course, and it was 2,500 square feet of roof. So you like inside, outside. So the winters were cold and freezing, the summers were hot. And it was glorious, because living in the middle of the city, all you saw was the sky. That's all you saw. So the scudding clouds and the blue skies and the sun and then the moon. The moon was magnificent. That moonlight, I remember the Mrs. Pegasus, she's now in Mexico, a monument to joy. I created her in 1990, life-size Pegasus. And she was silver, her body was covered with silver leaf, and she was white. And in the moonlight, this sculpture just glowed. Sort of moments like that, you know, there were so many moments, of course. Our New Year's Eve parties were, people would fly in from all over the world to come, and we never asked anybody. We had hundreds of people turning up. So those were, of course, wonderful. And we had funerals and weddings and you name it, everything. To me, it was a community centre. It was a place where people could meet, and a lot of people who were perhaps very unsure of themselves and in their creative worlds, and they meet, and I would just offer them the glass house, basically. I remember Kiyoshi, who was Japanese, who saw me in a magazine. He knocked on the door, and he couldn't even speak English. He said, I want to be your, he'd written it on his hand, I want to be your disciple. So I thought, you better come up to the studio and start work. And so he did for 6 months, and he went back and we visited him, and he's now married and got a child. But just things like that, they were so magical. And still, that still hopefully happens. But the Glass House was very special because it was Bermondsey. It was a time with the late 80s. People would, when you say you lived in Bermondsey, people would say, "Where's that?"
And then he found my museum for me.
Yes, of course.
He
Michael
saw a building and he said, "Sandra, you've always wanted to do a museum." Yeah. I said, "What do you think I am, made of money?"
Yes, that's right. Because we'd started the museum, and I said to Sandra, "Open a museum," and she did. And so it's wonderful that's what's so lovely about friends, really, and just being able to offer each other advice and help and encouragement.
You've got someone else over here with their hand up.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, kind of following on from that, you talking about people showing up and asking if they can come and work with you. And, you know, the young artists that are just starting out that we've got kind of here tonight, what advice would you give them for either their art careers or travel tips, either, where they should go and what they should see?
Well, the first thing, Zandra, I would say is never give up.
Oh, you've taken the words out of my mouth.
Yes, of course, I knew you were going to say the same. Never give up. Through thick and through thin, I mean, it depends on time, place. Some, of course, we know people who've become legends, but other people who have died in obscurity. But that's not the point. The point is never give up. If you believe in what you do,
and surround yourself by friends that also, I don't mean people that are going to just praise what you do, but your friends are it's so important when you might be really low. You have to keep going, you know. And I think whatever you say, life is going to be tough throughout the whole thing, but you're forging a new adventure, and that's the best way I think you've got to think about it. And then think about, if the alternative is, what would you be doing? And you think, what else would you want to do? And you realise that's the way you want to do it, then you keep doing it. And eventually, I think the world turns around to believe in what you might do. I mean, when I first left the Royal College, I got taken to Manchester because they really believed in what I was doing, and I showed my designs to people in Manchester, and they laughed. They said, we couldn't sell any of this, and they produced this terrible texture or something or other. But I mean, there's something that makes you think, I still want to go on doing it, you know, and eventually, I think people come round to your point of view if you keep on enough. That's what will happen.
I think it's really just never give up, and it's just whatever your field is.
But it's also how you talk about it. You know, you mustn't talk yourself down. You know, I think you have to, I don't mean you sing your own praises, but you've got to keep sort of believing, even when
Just
people
believe in yourself.
aren't taking
I always
any
say to
notice.
people, I'm my own greatest fan. Because I think if you can't love your work, who else is going to? You know,
Yeah.
when I get to see artists, you saying, you know, who destroy their work and things, and you say you keep every sketch.
Yeah.
Because it's, you have to believe in yourself, and that's difficult, but it's possible, and then set yourself up as well so that you can.
And remember,
be able
because a
to
lot
work.
of you are young and just starting, you're going to be producing new ideas that the rest of the world aren't necessarily going to believe in at the moment. But if you keep on with it enough, it will turn around.
Good luck.
I don't think, I mean, we're not talking about, you know, if you're saying talk about the dress business, I don't know what's going to happen, because I believe the way the world's going, you can't produce, mass industry isn't the answer, but maybe it's much more smaller looking, more folksy, I don't know. Can't tell. But something will...
No, I think, and for me as a hands-on artist, I am a hands-on artist, which of course is now with digital world is changing rapidly. But I accept all that. I mean, it's digital world. That's the future. But I do also think hands-on is a very important thing. It's the taking the creativity and allowing it to go through your hands into something, whatever it is magical. And the digital, it can take you so far, but it's the actual process, I think, of that's because I never do drawings for my work. I do all this sketching and drawing, watercolors and things, but actually when I'm creating things, I allow them to just pour in, just allow it to come in, and I create from that. It's quite, and I've spent my whole life doing that. But I think it's a wonderful question, actually, because it is.
It's a deep question.
A deep question, yes. We're feeling very deep here, aren't we?
There's a question from that side.
Zandra, what's your biggest icon when you were a child? Like, who was your fashion textile icon? Who did you look at for inspiration when you were a child?
I don't know about so much as a child. When I was at Royal College, one of the big inspirations was really Pucci at that time, with his early work where the prints were totally dominating the garments. And I realized, you know, because basically I went into I didn't train in the dresses. I wanted, as a textile designer, and couldn't sell my prints. And I did garments where the prints took over the whole thing and then led to the shapes and everything that they arrived at. So I'd say probably Pucci. As when I was always drawing, even as a school child, drawing, and I thought I'd go into book illustration, and then went to Medway College of Art, and really it was this inspirational textile teacher, Barbara Brown, who really sort of started me off on that before anything else.
Any more questions in the room?
There's one
just
over
down the
there.
front here, Anne.
The mic is coming to you.
Yeah.
Hi there. Sari, you were talking, you were both talking a short while ago about having kind of persistence in your vision and the world maybe catching up with you. I just wondered, Andrew, if you think about the alternative Miss World, which one way of looking at that is an exploration of gender identity. And I just wondered, given that questions around gender fluidity are now quite mainstream, how that feels as a subject that's arguably been part of your work throughout.
Yes, well, for me, Alternative World is open to everyone and everything. In 1985, Miss Rosa Bosom won, and she was a robot. And we've never had dog win, but any age, any gender...
How old was the lady, the 80-year-old lady you had?
Pani Bronua from Russia. She won in, that was Void, 1998. But I have realised exactly the question. You know, it has come to the fore, and but I was doing it quite naturally. The one thing I can see, it's good that it's now public debate, but I do wish people would have a bit more fun. It's so serious. I mean, okay, let's discuss it, but
it's too serious.
Yes, life is about fun, and you still can be discussed and still. So anyhow, that's the Alternativist World, really. So, you know, the next one will be, I don't know what we'll have next one, but it is interesting that because I've noticed, obviously myself, because of the early ones, we just unconscious, we just did it, and still am. It's still exactly the same format, and the fascinating thing with it is, of course, that society has changed around it. Really,
never know what's going to turn up and win.
No idea. So the event has kind of remained quite constant in a way. And as you say, perhaps I think it's a bit far ahead of its time. I mean, we've been looking for sponsorship for years. No one ever sponsors. Can't think why. But it's perhaps one day we'll get sponsorship, but that's not the point, really. It's something so special. And it's wonderful because I'll meet people and they'll say, oh, I came to your party, and they suddenly realize it was sort of 30, 40 years ago, and they still remember that night. And they're magic, because when I come out as the host and hostess, of course, on the stage, and there's such a feeling that is unforgettable, I must say. And once I suppose that goes, then I shall retire. But until then, it's magic. It's absolute magic. And I wish it could be larger, but somehow the intimacy, it needs that intimacy in order for the thing to work.
There's a question at the top there. There's two questions at the top there. Sorry.
Hi, it was lovely watching that. I'm Indian, I've never been to India, so but I also lived in Morocco when I was younger, so it's just really nice seeing all them pictures and seeing how you guys bounce off each other. I wanted to ask, what challenges have you faced in your creative journey, and how have you overcome them?
Who is that? Is that to both of us?
Yes.
Challenges.
Well, I think we work every day, don't we, Zandra?
Yeah.
You just work through it. It's simple as that, really.
Keeping going.
Yeah. You just...
You know, and, I mean, because regardless of anything else, I mean, it's not all plain sailing all the time. You know, it's a case of but on the other hand, I can't imagine not doing my work at all.
No.
You know?
Did you guys plan to both wear the same shade of pink? Or is it an accident and you just...
I'm not in pink tonight.
Well, I mean your hair, you're both accessorised with pink.
Oh,
yes.
Sorry. What, do I what?
Accessorise in pink. Oh, yes, we do.
Oh.
Often.
Quite often.
Often
I just don't happen to be in pink tonight.
Yes, and we'll have...
Oh, we've been to... When you opened your exhibition in Mexico...
Yes.
We didn't confer, and then one night you'd be in a purple suit, and I happened to wear purple, and then another night... So we do have coordinating outfits.
Yes. ESP, I think.
But we decided we wouldn't come in black tonight for all of you. And of course I have different Andrew Logan brooches to go with everything.
So Anne at the top.
Hello, I've got a question from Karen Tennant online. And she says, Zandra, what would you like your legacy to be?
Oh boy. What would I like my legacy to be? I've got my foot in the grave. I suppose I'd like to think that my textile designs contributed to, you know, when you look back historically, that my textiles will be remembered, I think, probably more than anything else. It's very strange because at the moment, since the lockdown, apart from doing the work with IKEA, and we did Happy Socks and some things like that, we've been cataloguing all of the dresses that I try and keep one of everything I ever do, and I've got about 8,000 garments boxed away in my part of the building, and I'm gradually cataloguing the whole of that. So I suppose I'll look at it and see what I think comes out as the most, you know, what one remembers most of all. I mean, my very first collection is something that I treasure, really, simply because it started me off on the journey, which was the collection that I did with the big yellow felt coat and the big caftans that I took first to America and were photographed on Natalie Wood, and I regard that as something, I don't know, I'm going to have to ask the world what they're going to remember. Maybe it's just the pink hair.
There's another question that's come through for you, Andrew. It's Rosie Hammock. And can you tell us how you come up with your concepts and your themes for the Alternative Miss World?
Rosie, thank you, Rosie. That's my fluorescent assistant in Wales. She's wonderful. She arrives in work in fluorescent green and pink and yellow, and she does things with UV lights. It's marvellous. What was the question?
How you come up with the themes.
Oh, how I come up with the themes. I'm so sorry, Rosie. Yes. Well, I went through all the elements. That was my first, really. First of all, the first ones, let's start at the beginning. 72 was 72. 73 was down the road. 75 was the pre-punk. It was before punk, and we had safety pins and all sorts of things. And yeah, it was before Malcolm and Vivian and Malcolm. And then 78 was Circus Tent. That was a theme. It was held in a circus tent on Clapham Common.
That was wonderful, with
yes.
a cage and everything.
Yes, the judges
were in a cage.
Yeah. And the 81 was the Royal Imperial, which was held in the Grand Hall Olympia. And the catwalk was 250 feet long. And we had Goldfield down one side of it. And the event finished at 3 in the morning because the catwalk was so long, they had 35 contestants, so everyone had to walk up and down. Heating was off, the sound was turned down, and Miss Aldershot won that one. A pre of the Falklands War. And then that was 81. 85 was water. And I start on the elements, you see. Water. 86 was earth. 91 was air. That was held at Business Design Centre. That was held in the day. And I always remember the drag queens were so upset because it was in the day. And they were having to appear, you know, in the daylight. And then 95 was fire, and that was a Clapham Grand. And that was fire, yes. And then we had 98 was void.
That was in church?
And that was in church in Hackney Road. And that was fantastic. because you didn't know what was going on. You couldn't make out of anything. The whole thing was chaos. I had no idea where I was or what was happening. And then that was, what was that?
That was
98, yes.
at the church.
So the next one was the Hippodrome, which was the universe. So I moved on to the universe. And then...
the Roundhouse.
And then, no, the universe was Roundhouse 2009? Yep. Yes, 2009. That was the Elements. So I combined all the ones before, the Elements. And then we went on to Neon Numbers. Talking about colour, I just thought, colour. So it was the first one we did at the Globe Theatre. And everything was fluorescent and fabulous. And then I went on to psychedelic peace. I still wanted to involve colour, but the world was getting more and more despondent, and I just thought, well, let's all celebrate peace. And the next one is gold, because it's 50th anniversary, wedding anniversary, the gold anniversary. So that's what we're going to be. It'll be gold. And that's how they kind of occur. They've just naturally gone from one to another. The actual timing, I remember Piers, who was talking to us earlier with the question, I was driving along one day and he said, isn't it about time you had another alternative world? I said, good idea. So there's no planning at all. It's very impetuous, really, isn't it? Just
like Piers crowd surfing.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. That's brought us to the end of tonight's event. Both Andrew and Zandra are happy to sort of sign anything if you'd like to come down, but not body parts because of COVID. And please, can you just wear a mask if you do come down, and just maintain some sense of social distancing? That'd be great. But I'd just like to ask you all to put your hands together for Andrew and Zandra. Thank you.